difficult to say goodbye after only one life, and rain will fall down, replenishing all of our broken dreams. And this burning tree that's withering will bloom again. Would you believe? Goodbye.
So I would say from a professional perspective, I work as a grief counselor, so I've been helping lots of families when they're with kids. You have to be, there's 3 rules: simple, honest, and with love. So it's not about big fancy fairy tale stories, and it's not about special tricks or anything like that. You want to be honest with them because, you know, kids are what I call meat and potatoes. What they see is very clear. So if you say to a child, like, you know, you think about a little child, right, you say someone died because they had an accident. What's an accident to a little kid? They peed in their pants. Right?
Okay.
So that's why when we don't think about them, we say, oh, someone had an accident, they don't understand. Or they say, and that's why language is so important, because if you say to a child, they were sick and they died, somebody gets a cold and they say, oh, daddy's sick, they're going to think that daddy's going to die and never be sick, like, you know, what is dying? So partly it's the way you talk about it, and I say simply, honestly, by telling them the truth and not fairy tales, because when you say someone is sleeping, or God really wanted that person, well, why would a child want to be good? It means being good, and God will, then I'm going to be good, I'm going to disappear.
Okay.
So it's important to say very, very, very sick, a sick that can't be fixed. Honest is their heart stopped working, and when your heart stops working, your body doesn't work anymore. When I said a sick that can't be fixed, so it's something, so when they hear someone is sick, mostly they're sick that can be fixed. Part of something in their body and was broken so badly that it couldn't be fixed, and their heart stopped working. When your heart stops working, you stop breathing and you die. Think about different ages. Little kids need very, very little information and won't really understand it. As they get older, and there's different ages, so from, I say, birth to 2, you're not really explaining anything, right? From 2 to 5, you're saying very simple, but they're going to ask you over and over again, because their understanding of death is very different than from, let's say, 6 to 9 or 10 or even 11, where they understand that death is permanent. It's not reversible. A little kid watches a video. All the Disney videos have somebody that dies in them, right? You think about it. But then then they shut it, it ends, they turn it on again, oh, the person's alive again. So they think death is reversible. They don't understand that it means someone's never coming back, that the finality of it. As you get older, you start to understand that, which sometimes makes it even more scary. Because then you realize what it really, the permanency, and that's a hard thing for all of us. None of us do this well. It's a part of life. So you teach kids by using, a lot of kids have fish. A lot of kids, I'll often take flowers and describe to kids everything in life. Everything has a life, a beginning, a middle, and an end. The middle is your life. The beginning is when you're born, and the end is when you die. Some things, like flowers, have short lives. Because as soon as you cut the flower, they don't live. People have very, very long lives. And then you say, well, obviously, but what about someone who's young and died? Sometimes bad things happen, and we can't always have an explanation for it. But when a young person, sometimes their heart isn't good. Sometimes an accident happens, and so something that couldn't be fixed happens. But mostly, people live a very, very long life, and so that's something they need to understand. And it's hard. It's hard for them to come to terms with. And at every age, like I said, the older you are, the more you, I can't say you accept it, but you understand it more. So I think that we have in our society also this whole belief that crying is bad. Crying is sad. Crying is sad. You cry. You hurt. I would say why? Why I would say that what you think about. Why do you cry? You cry because you love someone, and you've now lost them, and that's sad. And that's not a bad thing to cry. So I wouldn't say don't cry, which is if they feel like crying, cry. How can I help you feel better? And sometimes my job, I know, when I help people, is that I can't make it better.
Okay.
I can help them
Understand
through
it.
the process. Try and understand it as best I can, but I can't fix it. I can't take away, because fixing it means bringing the person back, and that I haven't figured out how to do yet. So, one of the things I see people do a lot of, I would say mistakes almost, is that people push someone who's sad or who's grieving they want them to be happy, they want them to be better, and they start doing things like, well, at least you got to know him, at least, and it's really actually very upsetting to someone to hear that, because they don't want to be, like, they don't want that person was important to them, right? They're not ready to hear the at least. They might say it if they want to, but you know what you're doing is, I don't know if it makes sense to you, you're rationalizing the death. You can't rationalize. Somebody you love died. A lot of people, I guess with you, you might have friends that grandparents died. Unfortunately, some of your parents' friends or your friends' parents are dying, and that's terribly sad because it is young and it's so hard. But could you imagine? We do it because we want to be nice. We're not being mean when we say, well, at least you got to go to Florida with and spend time with them. But think about from the person's perspective, they don't care. It's not, they're missing. So it's more about saying, you're sad, I'm sorry for your loss, and is there anything I can do to help you? People tend to not want to talk about the person because they're afraid it's going to upset them. Very few people are upset to talk about someone that they love. So it's almost insulting when you avoid very, very honest and tell them what's happening, because the more information they have, the fact that they're ill, anybody, it's out of their control. So I would try and find the things that are within their control, and what are the things that they need most, given the circumstances. But it would be excruciatingly awful. I've never, thankfully, had that experience. Had to talk to someone. I have spoken to people who are dying, but certainly not to a young child.
Okay. Is it still
Good
recording?
questions.
We need to talk, buddy.
Man to man?
Yeah. When you were at Andre's this morning, your grandma got sicker. She's in the hospital now. She'd like to see you.
She's gonna die now, isn't she?
Man to man? Yeah, buddy. Pretty soon.
Goodbye. I walk away, it's time to say goodbye. I never took the time to stop and realize that death takes many